4 constables, 2 males and 2 females are looking for a man who is missing and also has a weapons violation warrant. What they don't realize is they are about to be ambushed by Christian fundamentalists with rifles from concealed positions.
Yeah, 4P. Yep.
Jilly, Rachel, and Matt.
She's our newest first year.
Oh, how new start?
Just started general phase. Just started general phase. General phase. General? Mental phase? General phase?
Oh, definitely.
First year? Yeah. So week 9 or something?
Yeah, okay.
FTO trained. Yeah. Pretty good. Just get her to do everything. As you see, there's a arrest warrant for this fella. Yeah, I think.
Off camera, 1 male constable was shot in the chest and killed, 1 female constable was wounded and later executed at point blank range, and both constables have their weapons taken. The second female constable is shot but is able to run off into the brush. This constable's radio isn't working, so he contacts his supervisor by phone.
Hello?
Hey buddy, what's the we got?
He shot Rachel, I believe. I think she's dead. She shot him, I think. No, he's still walking. He's trying to walk around me.
She shot him?
Oh no, she shot at him. There's 2 of them. They've got Matthew's gun now. Okay.
Now, mate, hang in there. What about the other 2? You got eyes on Keely and Matt?
Matt's not moving. Rachel's not moving now. And Keely I haven't seen.
And you're all pushing behind a tree?
Yes, but he's walking over. There's 2 of them.
Walking over towards you?
Yeah. What do you want me to do?
Mate, you got to look after yourself, buddy. All right, stay behind that tree. That's the only thing you got between him and her. And between you and him.
Yeah.
You got long rifles?
Yeah. Long rifle and Dylan's Matthew's pistol.
Hang on, mate. Stay on the phone. If you got to drop the phone, look after yourself.
Yep. They're just camped up. Just both of them.
Mate, have you got any more trees behind you?
Nah, not a lot. Not a lot. He's coming over. Should I run?
Have you got trees behind you and you retreat back to the car?
Yeah, maybe.
Mate, do they know where you are?
Yes, they do.
Mate, can you, obviously scramble from tree to tree to try and retreat out of there?
I'll try.
To try and do that?
I can try. Want me to do that?
He decides to run to his police vehicle approximately 100 meters away under heavy gunfire.
They're coming, they're shooting.
The other 2 officers.
You good? I think I'm being shot.
As this officer drives off, he's shot in the hip but is able to escape to safety.
driving away. Oh, I can't hear because of the firearm shots. Oh. Hello?
Are you there, buddy?
Yeah. Where do you want me to drive to? Yeah, well, there's two of them. I think I've been shot. I don't know where. They've got multiple shots on the window of the car, but I had to drive away a bit. Lost the shoe. I've got blood on my face. I don't know where I've been shot.
One of the suspects lights the brush and police vehicles on fire in an attempt to flush out or kill the female constable who ran off into the brush. She's later rescued after calling dispatch and explaining that the fire is nearly touching her feet. These Christian fundamentalist extremists are apparently a product of the COVID restrictions. They believe that the police were the devil and they were there to kill them. They called out anybody who didn't defend themselves in this way cowards. Well, that anti-government sentiment kind of goes out the window when you also know that they killed his neighbor who responded because he saw the fire. This is an ambush, and the only way you survive an ambush is dependent on two factors: a lot of luck and the suspect's willingness to finish the job. I say willingness to finish the job because there are a lot of true ambushes that happen in law enforcement and the officer either goes down and he's injured, or maybe the officer is just kind of submitting but not continuing to try and stay in the fight, and that suspect, if he had closed the distance on those officers, certainly would have killed them. An ambush is a surprise attack by a person lying in wait from a concealed position. There are a lot of times in law enforcement where they say my officer was ambushed or our officers were ambushed, and they weren't necessarily true ambushes, at least by the definition. For example, if you run up on a vehicle after a vehicle pursuit when you know you should be doing a felony stop, I don't necessarily consider those ambushes because you probably violated some policies and procedures when you should have been using the more tactically sound option, which in that case is staying back and using as much of your vehicle as cover. There were several things that stood out to me in this incident, and one of those things was the lack of radio communication. Apparently, none of the officers' radios were working because they were out of range, which is obviously a problem because that's our direct line to get help. You heard this officer on the phone with the supervisor. I told you the other female officer was on the phone with dispatch for 2 hours. And obviously, in a chaotic environment, especially when we're being shot at, having to dig into your pocket and pull out a cell phone, one, that's not going to be the first, second, or third thing that you're probably thinking about doing, but you may not even have time to be doing that, and your focus may need to be elsewhere. What I did like was that the officer's communication to his supervisor the entire time was calm, clear, and concise. He was telling his supervisor where he was at, what was going on, and actually relaying to his supervisor what he was seeing, which brings me to my next point. This supervisor was able to give this officer options, and this is really important if you're answering that call and someone is asking you for help or telling you what's going on, because some officers or some individuals, maybe you're a civilian, don't understand what your options are, or fight, flight, freeze, or submit. You could be in a freeze scenario where you're just kind of panicked, the physiological responses have taken over, and you just don't know what to do. So this supervisor, hey, can you move tree to tree? He says, yeah, I think I can. He ultimately doesn't do that, which is fine. That's what he chose to do. But it's good that this supervisor was able to kind of be his eyes, even though he wasn't there. And that's something that you might have to do. Sometimes the answer is run. I know everybody wants to have this warfighter mentality or this staying in the fight mentality, but probably not a good idea when you're going up against people potentially, well, definitely are outgunning you, possibly with rifles from his perspective. You don't know where they are and you don't know how many there are. So what exactly are you going to do and where are you going to be engaging? I don't think I would have ran back to my vehicle, and this is why. If you look at where the officers' vehicles are and then you look at approximately where they were ambushed, and then from the individual officer's perspective, you think about where you're at in relation to where you think the suspects are, because if he's in defilade and he's not being shot at, well, then he knows, well, they're not behind me, they don't have a view on me where I am, so if I stand up here, where could they have a view or a line of fire on me? And if you factor in all those things, then you might also consider the fact that the suspects probably have line of sight on your vehicles. And so when this officer ran off into the brush, initially I was like, this is good. And then he came back out because his goal was to get to his vehicle. I believe that if the officer would have continued to run through the brush, put as much of that brush and trees between him and where he thinks the suspects are, that he definitely would have gotten away, and he probably would have mitigated those additional rounds into his vehicle. I'm not familiar with Australia's laws or their policies and procedures, but I would assume that if we're jumping over somebody's fence to their property because we believe somebody may be at a residence that has a warrant, then we have some legal right to be doing that. And if we have a legal right to be doing that, then I would think that this at least gets to the level of warrant for a person who potentially has weapons, which is kind of what it seems like it is. Now, they were asking themselves questions like, how much did the officers know? How much was passed on to them? What was briefed to them, if anything was briefed to them at all? And so I can't say what that was. I don't know if they were or they weren't, or if this is just common practice and how they do things in Australia. And so I'm just going to draw some parallels between what I saw in this video and what I see in the US. In a previous video I covered, I actually clipped this portion out, but this officer runs about 50 meters from where his vehicle is to the objective, where his partner is essentially executing a hostage rescue by himself. And one of the things that you want to consider doing whenever possible, whenever you can, is to keep your vehicle with you for as long as you can. One, just from a pure endurance standpoint, why would you want to run 50 meters when you can run 10? And secondly, your vehicle is going to be, in most instances, your LCC, your last location of cover and or concealment. Yes, it's not the best cover, but it's better than being in an open field. And so when you have the opportunity to, taking your vehicle with you will provide you at least some level of cover. And also, if you're being ambushed, you still have that opportunity to use your vehicle to get out of that ambush. In the United States in 2025, I'm sure all departments have some form of warrant execution training. And in that warrant execution training, you're going to learn things like gathering intel on people who may or may not be there, places that person is associated with, places that that person lives, or where you may be executing the warrant. You might do drives by the location to gather intel on the structure. You're going to determine how many people you need to actually execute this warrant depending on the size of the structure itself. You're going to establish roles and responsibilities so everybody leaving the briefing to go execute that warrant knows exactly what they're doing. But I have seen and know that this still happens where officers will get a list of people that have a warrant and they will see an address that they live at, and they'll just go name by name, house by house. So they'll say, hey, we're gonna go here first. They'll put in their GPS, they'll drive over there, they'll knock on the door. If he's not there, whether they get him or not, they'll go inside and they'll search, and then they'll just go to the next one, and they'll go to the next one. And I have seen officers get caught short executing warrants in this way, even though it's contrary to what the officers are actually trained to be doing. I am of the opinion that you should not sacrifice poor tactics for numbers on a piece of paper that nobody really cares about anyways. There are certainly times when you're on a team and you get information about something and you have to go right now without a plan and without a briefing. Someone comes in the office and says, hey, we gotta go right now, this thing's going on, you gotta go. You're out doing one thing, you get information over the radio that something else is going on, hey, you gotta go now and adjust and focus on this thing without a plan. And that will happen. But the only way that you can guarantee success in those moments without a plan, without a brief, without establishing roles and responsibilities is by understanding how everybody on the team is going to operate in these situations, what their response is going to be. Are they going to be where they're supposed to be? And the only way that you can get closer to knowing what that's going to be in those situations is through all of the times prior to that where you actually took the time to plan and then execute that plan. It turns out that one of the suspects was the person they were initially looking for with the warrant. The other suspect was his brother and his brother's wife. This incident ended when tactical or SWAT officers drove a Bearcat into the compound. They requested that the suspect surrender and they chose to continue fighting. On the lower right part of your screen, you can see one of the males in a somewhat fortified position, the other male on the left part of your screen, and the female just inside the house. At least one sniper is able to take out all three suspects, ending this altercation.